Okay, so welcome back to the course on cognitive biases, cognitive tendencies, the allures, the logical fallacies, all of those. This particular part of the course is going to be on the availability slash convenience bias. Now, the availability bias is a very, 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 very powerful one. This one basically says that things that are more readily available, that you can get to them or interact with them or understand them more easily, those things are more likely to convince people or persuade them. They're more likely that people will buy from them or buy those things, more interact with them or believe them. If it's an opinion that's just very readily available, they're more likely to believe it. All of those things. All right, it's actually quite a deep topic. So let's go ahead and get started here. We are going to we'll use blue for this. I'm going to show you a situation of availability bias. Now, let's take everybody's favorite fast food restaurant, McDonald's. All right? So, let's say you see that there's a McDonald's, I don't know, down the road from where you live. Let's draw a building here. Okay? And we'll say that this right here is McDonald's. And you know what McDonald's always has around it, and it's known for? This is blue, but you know it's known for its golden arches. Yellow does not show up very well on this board. I had to actually record this again because of that. So let's just imagine that M there and this whole thing is yellow, but it doesn't show up well on this board like this marker right here. So we're going to go with blue. But you guys are familiar with this image. You see this, right? Let's draw another one right here. Okay. We are familiar with this image. We know that. We see those golden arches as we're driving down the road or we're going somewhere. If you're in another state, you see that, you know immediately what it is. That right there, in simple terms, is the availability bias. It's easy to understand. You've been exposed to it thousands of probably tens of thousands or more times in your life. And you immediately recognize it. Now here is how this works for this company so well. How they're so well known. How they make so much money. It's because they're everywhere, man. It has been said before that McDonald's is not actually in the food service business as much as it is in the real estate business, because they find all the best prime real estate, all the best corners, all the best interstate stopping areas or whatever it is, and they buy all of that, and there's always a McDonald's there, man. 9 times out of 10. You go into a town or you stop off on a road trip or something, that place is gonna have a McDonald's. They're in the real estate business because that helps them market. It promotes that brand awareness. And the more brand awareness that a company has, the more they're triggering availability bias because it's readily available in your head. You don't have to think, hey, McDonald's, what is that? Imagine if I just made a place up. Let's call it, Henry's Cheesesteaks or something. No offense to Henry or his cheesesteaks if that is such a place. Let's just say Henry's Cheesesteaks. He makes Philly cheesesteaks or whatever, and he's got a chain of these restaurants. Now, if I said that to you, and like most people, that is not a thing near where you are, you're probably thinking, okay, what is that about? I've never seen that before. I have nothing to compare it to. I can't even ask people about it because nobody I know has ever heard of Henry's Cheesesteaks. All right? But you see McDonald's and that's immediately readily available. Do you see how this is difficult for Henry and his cheesesteak business? Because you can't just say that to anyone or practically anyone. Right? You can practically say it to no one and then already understand what it is. But you say McDonald's, people know what that is immediately because it's readily available in their mind just through that branding that they have done. And like I said, they're in that real estate game, buying up every good corner there is in like every single town. That's the availability and convenience bias. Here's another one. It's not just about they're everywhere around you, but they're also in places that are not around you. Think about it. If you go take a road trip and let's say you live in the US and you're driving through different states or going to cities you've never been before, Maybe even you go to another country and you've never been there before and they have all their own brands and stuff, but you see this. You see the golden arches in the distance and your mind immediately goes, oh, thank God. I see something I recognize and it's readily available to me because I understand it so easily. You are more likely to go and eat there than one of those other places or anything else that's around. Now, this can happen just if you're driving through a town you've never been to. They probably have 3 or 4 mom and pop shops, but you see that McDonald's, your brain relaxes immediately because it knows what to expect. The information about what you are going to get when you enter that building is readily available. People are more likely to go to McDonald's either in another state, in another city, if they're in another city, in another country even, than anywhere else. Now, that's not to say if you go to Italy or something, you're not going to go to some good mom and pop Italian joint. Of course you are. But what I'm saying is that as soon as you decide to do that, if you don't have somebody who either lives in Italy or goes there often and already knows of a good Italian restaurant, your brain is going to do this. It's going to be like, okay, now which one do I go to? How many thousands of Italian restaurants are there in Italy? And even if it's just in one small town, there's probably 10 near you. And your brain is now, okay, now we have to think about which one do we go to, okay? Which one's gonna have the best food? Is it gonna be enough like the stuff I've already had? Is it gonna be different enough to where I'm thinking that I'm having some authentic Italian food? Am I going to be taken advantage of? Is this place gonna be dangerous? Is it gonna be boring? All these things. And at the same time that your brain is going through that, you're getting hungrier and hungrier, all right? And all that energy that's going on is taking a toll on your basically on your fortitude here, on your willpower. You're just like, man, there's just so much. You see them golden arches though down the road, and then this does not ever happen when you see McDonald's, ever. You see McDonald's, you know exactly what's gonna happen, what you expect when you go in those doors, what kind of food they got in there. It might be a little bit different in different places, but I'll tell you one thing, pretty much you know what to expect. You know the layout, you know what people are going to say. If there's a drive-through, you know what that's like. Their fries taste exactly the same. Anywhere pretty much in the United States, at least, that you go, you know what to expect. That's availability bias. When you're thinking about them Italian restaurants, and this is just if you go to another town that is near you in your own country. Let's say you live, I don't know, in Nebraska, and you take a trip over to Oregon or something, and there's a bunch of mom and pop shops in a small town, and there's a McDonald's. You are more likely to go to the McDonald's because the other shops, you don't have this availability. They just don't have that power. They're not readily available. McDonald's, you know exactly what's going to happen. You know you're going to get your quarter pounder with cheese. You're going to get your medium fries. You're going to get your Coke. You might get a McFlurry or something. See, you already know what they have. In the other place, you got to walk in there and spend 10 minutes looking at the menu over the cashiers or something to figure out what it is that even sounds good to you. You know what a quarter pounder is. You know what a Big Mac is. You know what their fries are like already at McDonald's. You know what a McFlurry is and their Cokes, and I don't know if they have apple pies or whatever it is. You can right now probably tell me 10 things that you know at McDonald's, and whether or not you really like it that much, it'll do in a pinch. And when you're in another city or town, you're often kind of in a pinch. There's other things you're thinking about. How am I going to get to here? Where do I got to go? Am I meeting people at a certain time? All of those things. Are these people dangerous? It sounds silly, but your brain walks through all this stuff constantly, especially in a new area. So when it sees that right there, that's like what I was saying. It's like, oh, thank God we see something familiar because we know 100% what to expect from McDonald's because of availability bias. All right? And like I said, it's also the fact that they're everywhere. You can basically, in most towns and cities, basically cannot go 3 or 4 miles without running into a McDonald's, or 5 of them, depending on which one that you're in. They're so available. They're everywhere. And then people, they just kind of like, I don't know, they just resign themselves. So like, okay, I don't want to think about it. We'll just go to McDonald's. Because, hey, there's no thinking involved. Your brain doesn't want to think. Availability bias is there because your brain, all the biases basically are there because your brain does not want to go through the thinking phase of things as much as it possibly can. As much as it possibly can, it wants to avoid thinking about things. So Henry's cheesesteaks, unfortunately for that guy, he's gonna have less business than McDonald's just because of availability bias. Just because it makes people think. They're like, dude, I don't know who Henry is. I don't know what his cheesesteaks are like, man. They could be made out of, like, I don't know, old boots and stuff. We don't know. We've never been there. Now, that's a silly example, but your brain thinks in those terms. It doesn't think it's going to be made out of boots, but we're like, whoa, what if his stuff isn't Henry's cheesesteaks? What if they're just really not good, or they're poison or something? Because a long time ago, when humans were hunter-gatherers, when you saw a new plant or a new fruit or vegetable or something like that, your brain was thinking, oh, we might want to stay with the thing that we understand because the thing we don't understand could kill us. You could eat a new berry or a new mushroom or something and it be poisonous and screw you up, or you could even die. And you have the same brain, essentially, so, as your great whatever grandparents did back in these days to where there wasn't modern convenience. So now your brain likes this, likes this modern convenience. It's like, hey, McDonald's, that's like the blueberries that we eat every day. McDonald's is like, hey man, that blueberry bush over there, we know every time we eat that, we're gonna like it, it's gonna be okay for us. McDonald's, practically same thing. Now I'm not saying it's gonna be healthy for you, but how often do you hear about people dying after eating at McDonald's one time? You don't. Not that you do at Henry's or anything, but your brain understands that now. It's like, okay, we understand McDonald's. It's not a poison berry or something like that. We see Henry's. Henry's is like that could be a poison berry bush. We don't know. We don't even want to try that. So when we see that blueberry bush or whatever, then we're happy. And our brain's like, hey, availability bias. We don't got to think about this. So this is the availability bias, all right? In a nutshell, things that you can understand easier, that you can interact with easier, that are more persuasive. That way you don't have to do all the research yourself in your brain. Your brain does not like doing things because it's using energy, and you might need that to run away from a tiger or something. Or so it thinks. It's still the same brain as tens of thousands of years ago when that was a reality, when you could die at any given moment. So it wanted to use as little energy as possible. But now you still have these biases, but you don't need them as much. But your brain literally on like a very, very basic level thinks that, hey, Henry's over here, out of frame here, right? Henry's, that could be dangerous, and thinking about whether we want to eat there or not could use some brain power we're going to need to get away from a tiger that is trying to kill us. If we eat at Henry's, or if we even think about doing that, then we're not going to have that energy to get away from a tiger. Basically, that's basically what this bias is about. So remember, availability bias, things that are easier to understand, they're more readily available, they're more plentiful, they're nearer to you, they're more convenient, like I was saying, are more likely to get attention and be basically interacted with. All right, so thank y'all so much for being here for this one, and we will see you in the next one.